قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to a new episode of your program, The Life of the Scholars. This is Walid Basuni, and I would like to welcome my guests, Brother Muhammad and Brother Mamadou. Thank you for being here. As usual, every episode we talk about the life of one of the scholars, and we try to find stories, incidents, statements that they made or was made about them, a description was given about them that can teach us something new, can inspire us to be better people today. Because every time we study the life of the scholars, we always try to drive lessons from their lives and apply it to our modern days. Our scholar today, he's from India, and his life also, it's a very, not a very long life, but filled with so many things. Rahimahullah ta'ala. He is known as Shah Waliullah al-Dahlawi. He is Qutbuddin Ahmed, the son of Abdul Rahim, the son of Wajih al-Din al-Dahlawi. His lineage goes all the way back to Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh. Among these Arab families moved to India and settled long time ago. And usually those people well respected by the people of India and the subcontinent because they love the Sahaba, they honor the companions who brought Islam to this part of the world, who carry the light of the religion of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to that part of the world. So usually these families will be very respected. But guess what? This man, not only because he descended from Umar al-Khattab's family, is respected. There's many other reasons his family was very respected. His father, Abdul Rahim, was very well-known scholar, very well respected by the people. And not only by the average person, by the head of the state. At that time, India was ruled by the Mughal Empire. Aurangzeb, considered one of the true founder of the Mughal Empire. And in one of the battles, his enemy, they managed to come with an elephant straight to Aurangzeb's tent. So all of a sudden, not one of his royal guards, just an average soldier, jumped in front of the elephant. Can you imagine a huge elephant? You know, in the top of the elephants, the archers. And this man jumped in front of the elephant, basically holding his sword. He runs straight to the elephant and he hit the elephant's trunk that he cut a good piece of it. And that was very painful. And the elephant, or at least injured the elephant. The elephant changed his direction and went to the other side. And he saved Aurangzeb, the king. So the king was very impressed by him, and he wanted to bring him closer to him, being one of his special guards or people around him. And he found that this is not but a sheikh. Which one is that? Is the father of our Imam, Abdul Rahim. So he said, how can I help you? I want you to be from Rijal al-Malik, the king's men. He said, I am from the king's men. I'm a dedicated worshipper to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not interested in a job with you. Then he said, you are among the king's men. I like that. What can I help you with? Do you have a school? He said, no, I'm poor, I don't have a school. So he gave him a support and he started a school. It's called Ar-Rahimiyya. And this is the school where our Imam learned his first, lessons and start his journey in seeking knowledge in that school. His father was the dean and the founder of the schools. The school soon became very famous because of the support that got from this loved and famous leader, Aurangzeb. He lived in the 18th century. He was born in 1703 in Hijri 1114, and he died 1763. So he died at the age of 62 years old, rahimahullah ta'ala. So his father was his first teacher, and his father was a Sufi. He was a Naqshbandi person, and he cared to teach his son from early age spirituality. You know, he taught him hadith. And his father was not just a kind of Sufi who was no knowledge. His father was memorizing a lot of books of hadith. Some even suggest that he memorized most of the 6 books of hadith. And he taught his son fiqh, the Hanafi fiqh. He taught his son hadith. He taught his son literature. And he trained his son to be bilingual. So he speaks Arabic and he speaks Persian. Persian is the language of the elite in India at that time, the educated people, the elite in the society. Arabic is the language of what? The religious people, the people who study Quran, and you know, this is the 2 language that you can tell immediately if somebody speaks Arabic very well, it means he's a scholar. Anyway, to make the story short, as much as we can, Al-Imam Shah Dahlawi rahimahullah, his father at the age of 14 got him married. In the age of 15, he let him be independent and move out of his house. And by the way, you might not find this very interesting, but anyone from the subcontinent knows what that means. You know, until today, you don't move out from your father's house. You live with your family. You know, that's the culture. For him to ask him to be independent, to go and move out, that was something very interesting. And later on, when Imam Dawood became 17 years old, he gave him something called al-khirqa, which is a tradition in the Sufi tariqah. He gave it to him, and now officially he became a Sufi. And in the age of 18, his father died, and he asked his son to be in charge of the school. So he became like the dean of the school, 18 or 19 years old. And it's interesting. And he stayed like this for 12 years. During this 12 years, interacting with the students, with teacher, he found out that there's a lot of things he's missing. He doesn't know. He needs to learn. And that led him to decide to make a trip to basically to Arabia, to make Hajj and to meet new scholars. He moved all the way he traveled all the way to Mecca. And in Mecca, he met a lot of scholars. And one of his favorite scholars, that this scholar even was crying when Shah Dahlawi left Mecca, going back to India, and he walked with him outside. His name Abu Tahir al-Kurdi. He was a Shafi'i scholar. And he studied with him Al-Adab al-Mufrad lil-Bukhari. He studied with him many books, and he exposed him to a lot of books. He studied with Maliki scholars, and he studied Muwatta Malik, and he loved Muwatta Malik. He never saw Muwatta Malik before in his life. He actually brought Muwatta Malik to India. It never seen in India before. And Maliki madhab never went to the east side of the world. And he brought that to India, and he printed. He used to say, I prefer Muwatta Malik over al-Bukhari even. He was in love with that book. Then after that, Al-Imam Shah Dahlawi rahimahullah ta'ala also, like, he studied with the Hanbali scholars, with another Hanafi, the Grand Mufti of Mecca at that time, among the Hanafi scholars. And he looked at the book like a Nawawi's book, Al-Adhkar. So here he found out, he's so familiar with the Sufi words and dhikr, but here he sees the Prophet's word and dhikr. Sufism is about, the Naqshbandi and Sufism in general, it cares a lot about etiquettes and proper etiquettes of dealing, mannerism, and how to deal with Allah and how to deal with people. So he found in Kitab al-Bukhari, Al-Adab al-Mufrad, a lot of things covered. But instead of attribute this to so-and-so person, this became attributed to the Prophet ﷺ. So he found the tariqah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, something he related to it more than anything else. And that was a change. Then he started looking at the books of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim, first time in his life to read it. And he was very fascinated by these books. It really affected him and made him see things from a different perspective. Especially in India at that time, Shiism is something was growing. And a lot of practices not necessarily according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So by going back and meeting different scholars, reading different books, exposed to all this knowledge, have really matured him a lot. Now, there is a time, the time comes for him to make a decision. Should I go back to India and share the new things that I learned, the new phase of his life, or to stay, to seek more knowledge, to stay and a lot of Indian scholars settled in Mecca at that time. Why? Because there's so much instability in India. There's so much internal fight that Sikh, the Rajaputs, the Hindus, basically attacking Muslims on a daily basis, major battles, had a lot of Muslims killed. And the Mughal Empire was falling apart. Even the leader in the Mughal Empire are fighting one another. Not only, the king of Afghanistan invaded the Mughal Empire. The Iranian, the Safavids, king, the Shias, invaded the Mughal Empire. So it's attack from other Muslims group, attack from the Sikh and the Hindus, and things became became ridiculous that you can imagine. Some of the leaders who run the country used to be very ruthless and they will humiliate the king, kill the king in front of the public, poke his eyes in front of the public and put them in jail, and they run the country. So things were very scary for Sunni scholars to go back at that time. But he saw a dream that motivated him to go back. We'll talk to you about this dream after we come back from the break, so stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to your program, The Life of the Scholars. Still talking about Imam Shah Waliullah Dahlawi rahimahullah ta'ala. And I told you he was now in Mecca, doesn't know he should go back or not. Things were not stable. The Mughal Empire is falling apart. King Nader Shah, the Persian king, attacking it. The king of Afghanistan, Ahmed Shah, attacking. Many people die. You talk about 100,000 people dying in one battle. And the Rajaputs, the Sikhs, the Hindus attacking the Muslims as well. Things is shaking very bad. Sometimes the king, the emperor himself, cannot walk into his capital, live outside the capital. The kingdom runs sometimes by the ministers or the generals. And so many times they were Shia and gave a very hard time to the Sunni at that time, and it became a sectarian war. So with all these factors together, he was thinking, should I go back or not? What should I do? And even inside the Sunni circle, there's so much division in India. He saw a dream, he saw the Prophet ﷺ in his dream. And the Prophet ﷺ impressed him and he said that you are destined to be a mercy for my ummah, or to bring mercy to the ummah. Another dream he saw him being given a pen by the Prophet ﷺ's grandson Al-Hassan in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ. From these two dreams he knew that there is a bigger role to play than just staying in Mecca. And he decided to go back to India. When he went back to India, he dedicated his life to teach, he go back to school, but he started teaching new things. When he went back, he decided to focus mainly in preparing a new patch of scholars. He focused on teaching a new generations of scholars. a new generation of student knowledge, and he used to send them all over India. And he really was responsible for the modern movement of spreading knowledge and spreading hadith. You know, in no time, people start traveling from the whole entire world to study hadith in India, in his schools. People from Arabia, people from Egypt, people from Syria, they travel all the way there to study in India. And the work started by the effort of Shah Waliullah Dahlawi and continued after him, especially in the time of Siddiq Hassan Khan and so forth. But he, rahimahullah ta'ala, spent 45 years of his life doing nothing but teaching and preparing for the next generation of scholars. Scholars who rely on evidence, hadith, not just blind imitation. Scholars not narrow-minded, with just, at that time there's a popular position that there is no ijtihad. You can't give fatwa in the new issues. He said that's not true, and he wrote books about that. Those who are so rigid in following a madhab, and those who are completely against madhabs, he refuted both of them. He tried to reconciliate between the school of the Deobandi schools and the school of the Hanafi, and also the schools of Ahlul Hadith, which is where a little bit sometimes there's a clash between them. He tried to reconcile between them, telling them following a madhab is not a bad thing, but to be extreme, to not recognize others, to close your mind, to accuse other madhab, other opinions, by being misguided or fisq or anything like that is unacceptable. And he wrote a book about that. It's a summary of Ibn Taymiyyah's book, Raf' al-Malam, and Al-Immat al-A'lam. He wrote also books about the Khilafah, because he saw how the leaders are so corrupt in the internal fight. And also because of some of the Shia's ideas about the Khilafah and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and things of that nature, and the Khilafah Umar and Uthman. One thing that he did as well, he tried to reconcile between to basically reduce the tensions between Sufism and the Ahlul Hadith schools or the rest. And he tried to find a solution. You know, he focused on the good things in Sufism and introduce it to the rest of the Ummah. Also find alternatives for it. You know, he introduced the Sunni words instead of the innovated word. He introduced terminologies. One thing that he hated and he fought it a lot is to live off people's donations by next to a shrine or anything like that. He said scholars need to be dignified. Scholars recognized by their knowledge, nothing else. And that's something he spoke about. He wrote a lot of books, rahimahullah ta'ala. And interesting enough to know that he wrote books in Arabic and wrote books also in Persian. He was speaking to the elite and speaking to the average student of knowledge. He wrote 60 books, 39 of them in Persian and the rest in Arabic. And so many of his books still exist. But I think the most important thing he wrote was a translation for the Quran. He wrote a translation, one of the early translations that we have, in Persian. And that almost cost him his life. Some scholars give fatwa that he's kafir by translating the Quran. And he refused to let only few people control the Quran, because nobody knows Arabic except few. So the average person in India cannot understand the Quran, cannot relate to the Quran. So he wrote a translation to give access to people to understand. The average educated person in India. They tried many times, made an attempt on his life. They hired gangs to kill him while he's going to Asr prayer. But he was brave enough and he went straight toward the gangs, saying, Allahu Akbar, Allah, they run away from him. And his daughter was so scared. He died, rahimahullah, but he left behind him a legacy of a person who tried to bring really the ummah together, rahimahullah ta'ala. So what we can learn from this man's life?
I like the fact that about his father, that he had a very great influence on his son's life from scratch. Let's say that he prepared him for the moment that when he died, his son took his place. He was in charge, and now he was like 15
Very
years
good.
or 16
Very
years.
well. So many times, father passed away and he didn't prepare for his children. He
Uh-huh.
didn't prepare his kids. And you have to invest in your children. You have to invest again and again. Time, effort, teaching them principles.
Yes.
Leave them with something that they can live for after you. Very good lessons. What else?
I think definitely what I said is the kind of his promotion of independence of scholars. And I feel like maybe in our day and age, most scholars are held back sometimes by the masjid they work for. And maybe they know they can probably move the community forward, but they can't because of their, maybe a bit, the hands are tied, as they say. So, you know, if you're becoming independent, you're not relying on other people, then you can move the community forward in that direction.
Very good. Being independent will give you a lot of room, of freedom.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to be independent.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to say, he wasn't afraid to go against the Rome,
Yeah.
against the culture, against what his father used to preach even.
Yeah.
He didn't feel shame. He didn't feel that he's shaming his father. He was buried next to his father. But he thought that his father did his best. And now I learned something new. I'm learning the correct thing. And I will continue to do that. A lot of time, because of the culture, we're afraid to challenge the culture. We're afraid to challenge or to introduce change to the society. I think we should be brave enough to do that. Very good. What else?
I would like to add that he didn't keep the knowledge for himself. Like he wanted to go back to spread the new knowledge, the new science.
Very
and,
good.
And to let people, he made like sadaqah jariyah for himself, like for the whole of his life.
And look at how he spread the knowledge, spread his ideas, his views, through teaching, interacting, and books. One thing I want to cite, in the West especially, Muslims need to write a lot. A lot of time, we have good ideas, but we don't write. We need more academic research. We need to contribute to the solution of so many of the social problems of today. You know, we need the Muslim to contribute into this area a lot, and to write an academic papers and journal, publish things in this area, especially in what we call like human science and things in that area. We really need the work of the Muslims. Like drugs, what can we offer?
Exactly.
It's not only talking, but we talk and we contribute materials that people can read, and I think that will gain us a lot of respect as a community. Yes.
You know the secret behind the success and the great things he made in his life? You know what was it? It was marrying at an early age.
You know, if you manage to marry an early age, I don't know about 14 today, but definitely that's, if you're responsible enough, that's good. But I like that his father trusts him and lets him even be independent. And look, he went against the Rome. So he was raised to challenge the culture. You know?
I would say another thing that's very interesting is that we're very good at putting up barriers nowadays. Where he thought about, okay, what do I have in front of me? Let me try and reconcile differences. How can we move forward and work together?
Very good. Very many times we don't try to reconcile the differences between other groups. You know, there is a lot of similarity between the Muslims groups that they don't even notice it. If we can focus on the similarity, we'll be able to bring people together. We're not going to end the dispute between Sufism and Salafism and this and this and that. We're not going to end that. We're not going to end the dispute between this group and that group. You know, and I think it's fair everybody to represent what they have. But there is so much in common between us. There is so much things we can do together. The Ummah need a lot of work, and we should have that message clear that we can work together for better. And we can challenge each other ideas and maybe an article or some area in theology. I don't have a problem with that. But this is in the academia area, in the classroom, through the books. But when it comes to the public, what they need us to stand together. And that's very good also about him, that he brought alternatives. If you want to introduce change in the society, give them alternative. It's not enough to tell, hey, this is bid'ah, this is wrong, this is not right. You know what? That's the alternative. That's the badil. That's another thing I suggest for you. If you want people to change, give them another thing to do. Give them another a hope or things that they can invest in it as well. I think it's very important to care for the aqeedah. This is something he cared for. He wrote about correcting the aqeedah, because the aqeedah is the foundations of unity. even with differences. But the principle of faith is important among each other to speak about, to raise the second generation in a pure aqidah. Their hearts attached to Allah, not to anything else. They depend, they pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. One thing I want to say about him, maybe I'll end with this. You know, I know a lot of brothers graduated from Islamic studies, universities, and you know what they do after they finish? They go work overseas, stay overseas. People, any contract comes for them to work overseas, they will run away. You know, who would you leave your society for if everybody run away? When everybody running away from India, he went back to India. I wish that this is something we can think of, that running away from the problems of our community is not the way to solve it. It's facing it and contributing to the solution. That will improve our community. Anyway, there is so much to be learned from his life. And I will be always happy to get your feedback, your opinions, and your points. Share it with me in my social media, and I'll be happy to share it with the rest of the world, inshallah ta'ala, because that will bring the end of our episode today. Thank you very much for listening and tuning in. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Shaykhana.
This is Walid Basuni. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون